So I feel right off the bat you have been dealing with someone that is quite emotionally unavailable. And what I mean by emotionally unavailable is emotionally shut off. They can be sort of very dismissive. They can pull away from you. And I feel like this has happened for you, that, you know, you've brought up some kind of emotion or some kind of feeling and this person has pulled away. You may have shared something really important to you and they kind of didn't really give you much of an answer to it. You try to do a lot more towards this person, right? You try to make a lot more plans. You're a lot more emotionally invested, right? And this person has been quite sort of stagnant in doing that. They just become very stagnant. It's almost like, you know, there's a hot and cold energy here. There's a push and pull energy. Sometimes they come forward, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're consistent in communication and sometimes they are not. And that's basically what you've been dealing with in regards to this emotionally unavailable person. So why? What has been going on? Well, before I, sort of get into that particular question here, we've got here the Two of Wands. Okay, now the Two of Wands here goes to show that this is someone that tends to really value independence. Okay, they don't like to be too dependent on somebody. Now the Two of Wands also shows someone that's always very busy, always distracting themselves, always has 1,000 things to do. So if this sounds like someone you've been dealing with, trust me, I have got a reading lined up for you today. Okay, so keep watching because it's very, very significant and very, very powerful. This person, okay, is someone that has thousands of things to do. I am not even joking, to the point where if you look at their to-do list, you would get stressed. Okay, and this person here is someone that cannot sit with their thoughts and their feelings. They cannot sit with themselves in an empty room. So that is why they fill up their diary, their calendar, and their schedule with thousands of things to do. Okay, they're always doing something. And if they're not always doing something, they're always thinking of something whilst they're doing it. Okay, because this is someone that cannot face their own silent mind. They can't face silence, and they can't face an empty room. They can't, it brings up too much. It brings up a lot of trauma from their past. It brings up sadness. This person, I don't believe, has healed. Whoever it is that you're dealing with here, okay, has not healed, and they have a habit of suppressing things, right? And filling up their time with so many things that they're always looking towards the next thing. They're not actually appreciating the current moment. This person, I hate to say this, does not have mindfulness, okay? So every time you've been around this person or you've shared something with them and, let's say you went somewhere with them and you've really understood and digested what it is that you've done together and the moments you've spent, and you have mindfulness and you really lock in those memories and you think about the amazing things. When you bring it up to them, it's almost like they don't really care. They don't really understand. And that's because they're always looking to the next thing. They're not present really with themselves and their emotions and understanding their emotions, because I think from a young age, they were not really allowed to understand their emotions, to be dependent on someone. They were always taught to be very independent and to always kind of do things, but not really understand their emotions, their feelings, and things like that, especially here with the Nine of Wands. Okay, we have this very, very powerful energy here of this person kind of sitting with their thoughts and it not being too comfortable, okay, especially with the Nine of Swords. So who you are dealing with here is someone who has never really learned to understand their emotions, their feelings, and their thoughts. They've never learned to sort of categorize things, okay? It's a bit like if you give somebody a bowl of Skittles, right, in lots of different colors. You could separate all the colors out, but for someone that doesn't know how to separate all these colors, and let's just say, for example, okay, they've been so conditioned to see those Skittles as one of the same color, they'll never compartmentalize things and understand things and sort of categorize things to understand emotions and feelings, because they've never been taught to do that. Whereas you have been taught to understand your feelings, to take action on it, and you would and you can then compartmentalize all those Skittles into different colors, right? They've never learned to do that. To them, all the Skittles look the same, even though they're not, okay? So that's the thing that we're really picking up on here, is that this is probably a secret that they don't want you to know. Like, I don't think that this person wants you to know that they have zero ability to understand their emotions. To them, if they were to tell you that, okay, because they don't even themselves know that there is something inherently not quite right in this sense, right? but they wouldn't want you to know this, and here I am telling you. But it's from a place of divination. I think that what's really important to understand is that the reason you're being told this right now is because the divine is trying to give you an answer, and many of you have been trying to figure out, like, am I doing something wrong? You know, is it me? Like, am I the problem? Like, am I the reason why this person is not reaching out or saying anything? And I think the most important thing you need to know is that this is not your fault. This is how they were conditioned from a young age, to not necessarily understand their emotions, to not necessarily connect, not necessarily understand what they're doing towards you. This is not your fault. And I think that's the most important part of this reading, is it's not to criticize the character of the other person, but it's to understand that you've been searching for an answer. You've been blaming yourself. The divine is like, please don't blame yourself. This is how this person was raised, unfortunately, you know, in the sense that they were never allowed to understand their emotions and their feelings, probably because their caregivers or their parents or whoever raised them themselves never looked at their emotions and feelings, and they then projected it onto your person then just grew up with that, right? And it's a secret that they wouldn't want you to know. Like, they wouldn't want you to know that, you know, they were basically emotionally abandoned as a child and had to become independent and had to find a million things to do in order to avoid that pain. They would never tell you that, because also on a subconscious level, they themselves don't understand it, and the only way they would understand it is through deep, thorough shadow work healing. And of course, I do shadow work healing as well. So if anyone wanted me to do shadow work healing, whether it's for yourself, you know, after dealing with the situation, or whether it's to do it for this person so that they can actually understand their emotions and their feelings and understand the pattern that has arisen for them to feel this way, it is something I can do. And it works for 7 days. So basically I do the work for 7 days, and then as time goes by, okay, they start to in reality feel better. They start to connect the dots. And what I do is I work on the unconscious aspect of the shadow, which is the part that you don't see, the part that they don't feel, the part that they don't understand is the pattern. So if anyone's interested, shadow work healing is linked down below. But I think what's going to happen in time is they're absolutely going to realize that, you know, you were someone that was always trying to make things work. You were always someone trying to understand them. You were always trying to figure things out. You were always trying to do things, especially with the 10 of Wands, right? You were always trying, doing, being the best you could be. And justice here shows justice being served. I do believe at some point this person will come to you and apologize, okay? I do. Once they have really understood what has happened, I think they'll be heartbroken that they had someone trying to understand them, someone who was so emotionally aware, and they pushed you away thinking that you were wrong. You were wrong according to their conditioning, okay? Because you're not wrong, but according to what they were conditioned to believe, a person should not be too dependent, right? Which you may have been trying to, you know, depend on them, which is, by the way, very normal in a relationship to talk about your emotions and your feelings. But because of how they were raised, they thought that this was wrong, right? So that's it. And then they will realize, actually, it's very, very normal. I pushed away someone who just really wanted my support. But because they weren't raised in that way, right, they think that this kind of support is too intrusive. It's not right. You need to be more independent. You need to do your own things. You need to do this. You need to do that. So they themselves will eat up their own words in their future, and they will actually feel like, oh my God, I was really scared. I was scared to face my feelings. I was scared to face my emotions. I was scared to face myself. I was scared to face the truth. Oh, you can't even see it. Same color wall. So yeah, 10 of Wands, they'll realize that they were just so scared to look at themselves that they actually ended up ruining this entire situation. And they'll realize that you were right all along, right? That you wanting human connection, wanting consistency, wanting someone to emotionally, you know, talk about things is not wrong. They will actually realize that, and they will realize how wrong they were to dismiss you, okay, and to deflect things and to make you feel like, you know, you're not good enough based on that, when actually you were always good enough and you are always going to be good enough, okay? So this is the main thing that I'm really seeing here. And they will literally think to themselves as well that you are too good to be true, okay? Well, I think they thought that before, right? That you're too good to be true, but also they're going to realize that in the future, like, oh my God, you were too good to be true, but you're not actually too good to be true because you are too good, you know? So especially with the Fool here as well, it's such a beautiful, such a powerful, such a strong energy. The energy is very powerful. Why? Because the Fool here with the Justice card really represents balance, okay? It represents harmony. It represents consistency. It represents joy. It represents an opening. It represents openness. It represents justice being served in the situation. Oh my gosh. My throat today. Okay. So this is really the truth of why they've been treating you this way. I think we really got into the deep aspects of their emotions. We got really into why they've treated you like this. And I think a lot of the times as well, you might be thinking to yourself, why do they spend more time with their friends? Why do they entertain their friends? Why do they talk to them more than me, you know? And the truth of the matter here is that it gives them distractions without emotion. And they have always liked distractions without emotion. So the reason why they've treated you very differently is because you come with emotion, you come with expectation, you come with wanting something more serious, something more substantial. Of course, that goes against this energy, right? Which is what they have basically grown up to do in order to suppress those more deeper feelings that they would have to acknowledge being around you. But what they will realize in time is that you were always right, you were always good, okay? So this is your reading, and please do like, comment down below, and of course subscribe if this resonates. All personal services, readings, items, rituals are linked down below, and also TikTok and Instagram as well is linked down below, and I'll see you all very soon.